What if some of the things that culture treats as normal conversation, God says shouldn't even be named amongst his people? In Ephesians 5, it says, "But fornication and all uncleanness or covetousness, let it not even be named amongst you, as is proper amongst saints. Neither filthiness, nor foolish talk, nor coarse jesting, which is not fitting, but rather giving of thanks." In Ephesians 5, it gives us a sobering warning. There are certain things that should not be normal in the life or speech of someone who belongs to Jesus. Paul says these things are not fitting for saints. That means that there are desires, conversations, jokes, habits, and attitudes that may be common in the world, but they are completely out of place in someone who has been made holy in Christ. And here's what Paul is warning against: fornication, which is sexual immorality. It's sexual sin outside of God's design for marriage. Uncleanness, moral impurity, inner corruption, or spiritual filth, especially in thoughts, desires, speech, and actions. Covetousness, a greedy, craving desire for what God has not given you, whether that's money, possessions, status, attention, another person, or even sexual gratification. Filthiness, shameful, dirty, obscene, or morally degrading speech or behavior, things that are disgraceful in God's sight. Foolish talking, speech that lacks wisdom, purity, and restraint, especially when someone turns every conversation into a joking comment about sexual matters, impurity, or things that should not be treated lightly. And then coarse jesting, which is dirty joking, vulgar humor, sexual joking, inappropriate teasing, or making light of sinful things. Paul is not merely listing bad habits, he's exposing what happens when the heart becomes too comfortable with darkness. And notice this, he does not say these things should be avoided so that we can become a saint. He says they are not fitting for the saints. In other words, if you are in Christ, your identity has changed. So your speech, your desires, and your conduct should no longer reflect this old life. This is not about legalism. This is about holiness. The world laughs at impurity. The world excuses lust. The world glorifies greed. The world turns sin into entertainment. But God says these things are out of place for his people. Instead of filthiness, foolish talking, and coarse jesting, Paul says, but rather giving of thanks. Why? Because a thankful heart doesn't need impurity to feel full. A thankful heart doesn't need greed to feel satisfied. If it is not fitting for the saints, it should not become comfortable for us. Just because the world jokes about it, posts about it, laughs about it, and calls it normal does not mean it belongs in the mouth or the heart of someone who belongs to Jesus.